Hello everyone, welcome to Proud Animator. In this video, we are going to animate this chat animation UI in After Effects. So let's start. So before jumping onto animation, let's check out the illustration and the layer separations. So in this lesson, we are going to work with these two UI pages, and this is how I have separated the UI elements in Adobe Illustrator. Okay, so right now let's jump on to After Effects. So right now let's create a new composition window. I'm going to click over here and let's name it Chat UI. And I'm going to give the resolution 1920:1080 and give the duration of 1 minute. And let's change the background color and give it slight sky color. And I'm going to press OK. So right now I'm going to import the Illustrator file. So let's double click over here in the project panel. Select this to UI, change this to composition retain layer size, import the files, and I'm going to click the UI1 and put it on the timeline. So right now let's double click on the composition to open the composition window. Now I'm going to select all these element layers except the screen and phone and pre-comp it and name it screen elements. Now I'm going to copy the screen layer once again and put it above and apply this layer as a track matte. Now let's create a click animation like this. I'm going to make a new composition, name it click, and I'm going to select the ellipse tool, make a circle out of it. Now let's select the layer and align it with this composition window. Now I'm going to open the scale property, put a keyframe, then I'm going to open the stroke width and put a keyframe on stroke width and select the layer and press U to open the properties with keyframes. And then I'm going to jump on to next 5 frames and put keyframes over here. So at this point, let's first of all select both the scale and let's scale it down a bit. At this point, I'm going to scale it down and let's increase the stroke width and let's give it 90. And then for a frame, it will be still. And then again, on the next 8 frame, it will expand. And let's give the stroke width 0 and let's erase the keyframe. Alright, and from here I'm going to copy this layer once again, press U to open the properties with keyframes, and I'm going to delete all these previous layers. And at this point I'm going to scale it up a bit and let's slow it down. Let's check our animation. Okay, let's trim this layer to this point. Alright, so right now we are going to create these two typing animations. Now let's start with the first one. I'm going to create a new composition window and name it type 1. I'm going to select the ellipse tool, make a circle out of it, and I'm going to copy this layer 2 more times and I'm going to select the last one and put it over here. And let's select all these 3 layers and let's distribute it horizontally under this align panel. If you don't find it over here, go over here in Windows and find align and take it. So let's select these 3 layers and let's scale it up a bit. Alright, so now I'm going to jump on to next 5 frames and let's trim all these 3 layers till this point. So the layers will be starting from this point. Now let's jump on to next 5 frames and deselect the first layer. So this one, let's change the order. This is the second layer and this is the third layer. Okay, so I'm going to trim this two layers till this point, and now let's jump on to next 5 frames and deselect this second layer and let's trim it from this point, and let's jump on to next 5 frames again, and let's bring the work area end over here, and let's check out the animation. So this is the animation we were looking for. Now we are going to pre-comp it again, and let's name it dots, and open the time remapping, put a keyframe at this point again, and let's delete this keyframe at the end, and we are going to add a loop expression, which is loop in plus loop out minus the value. So let's check it. Let's extend the work area end. Alright, so this is the animation we were looking for. So right now, let's create the type animation 2. For that, I'm going to create a new composition window. Name it type 2. And I'm going to select the ellipse tool, make a circle with it. Copy this layer 2 times. And select the third one and place it over here. Second one and place it over here. Let's select all these 3 layers and let's distribute it horizontally. So I'm going to put it at the center somewhere around here. Now let's open the position property. But before that, let's separate the dimensions, and I'm going to deselect the x-axis from these layers because we want to work with only the y-axis. So I'm going to jump on to next 10 frames, and let's select both these 3 layers and pull it above to somewhere around here. Now let's jump on to next 10 frames again, and I'm going to copy and paste the initial frames, and I'm going to copy this loop expression and paste it at all of these layers. Select the keyframes and erase it. Now I'm going to offset it by 3 frames or 4 frames, and let's place the first frame over here and again offset this one by 4 frames. Let's start all these layers from the start of this composition. So let's check our animation. Alright, so this is the animation we were looking for. So now we are going to start with the UI animation. So let's go inside the screen elements. Now I'm going to put this type 1 animation at this point. So let's move the anchor point and put it over here, and let's scale it down. So turn on the rasterize and let's scale it down, and I'm going to put it beside this typing text. Alright, so now let's parent this with this layer. Okay, now we are going to tap on this chat. So let's bring in the click effect and put it over here. Let's turn on the rasterize and let's scale it down. Alright, so now at this point we are going to put this highlight. So open the opacity, put a keyframe. Now let's jump on to next 4 frames and again put a keyframe, and at the first keyframe we are going to make the opacity 0%, and now again for the next 3 frames the opacity will be 100%, and for the next 4 frame it will come back to 0. Let's check our animation. So after this click, this UI will be just be replaced with the next UI. So I'm going to bring in this chat 2 and put it over here. Let's open the chat 2 and I'm going to turn off this layer and this screen layer as well. And now we are going to select this header and select this gems layer and chat list and even the highlight and parent it with header. So right now we are going to open the position properties, separate the dimension, open the x-axis and put a keyframe, and let's jump on to next 4 frames or 5 frames, and I'm going to slightly move it at this side. Let's give some anticipation to the animation, and now let's jump on to next 12 frames and I'm going to completely move it outside the screen. And at this point we are going to open the position property and put a separate the dimensions and put a keyframe on the x-axis of this chat UI2, and let's just make it outside and select the keyframes and reverse it. Okay, now let's jump on to next 5 frames and put a keyframe, and at this point let's add some overshoot. So let's erase the keyframes, same with this one, erase the keyframes, and I'm going to slightly offset this chat UI2 a bit. Let's check our animation from this window. Okay, so the header background should be below this layer. So let's check out now. Alright, it's looking pretty nice. So now let's open the chat UI2. Now select the keyboard and the letter pop, turn off the visibility. Also I'm going to select these layers and turn off the visibility for now. And I'm going to select this layer and move the anchor point of this layer to this position. So at this point, after the transition happens, or from this point itself, there will be this typing animation, this type 2 animation. I'm going to put it over here. And let's scale it down. So after this whole thing settles down, then after 2 or 3 up and down movement of this type animation, we are going to pop out this text. So let's trim this layer to this point. Let's open the opacity, put a keyframe and jump on to the previous 6 frames and put a keyframe, and at this point I'm going to put the opacity 0%. Now from this point this chat cloud will pop up, and also I'm going to parent this hey bro text. So and I'm going to open the scale property, put a keyframe. Now let's jump on to next 10 frames. Let's scale it down to 30%. So let's select the keyframes and reverse the keyframe order. Now I'm going to jump on to next 6 frames or 8 frames, and let's put a keyframe, and let's jump on to next 5 frames and put a keyframes. I'm going to jump on to next 4 frames and put a keyframe, and now after 3 frames it will settle down. So at this point I'm going to increase the scale to 110 or 112. At this point I'm going to scale it down to 95%. At this point I'm going to scale it up again to 102, and at this point I'm going to scale it down to 1%. And let's select this keyframes and press F9 to erase it. Alright, so it's looking pretty nice, and I'm going to open the opacity of this text and jump on to next 12 frame and put a keyframe and give it 0% of opacity, and select the keyframe and reverse the keyframe order. So let's select the press F9 to erase the keyframe. Alright, it's looking much better. At this point this time will be visible, so I'm going to open the opacity and put a keyframe. Now let's jump on to next 6 frames and put a keyframe and give it 0% of opacity. Select the keyframes and reverse the order. Let's check our whole animation. Alright, so now let's animate this one as well. So I'm going to copy this scale keyframes and let's select this scene layer and WhatsApp this layer, all these two, and parent it with cloud 2 and move the anchor point and put it at this corner. So I'm Control V to paste the keyframes over here, and at this point let's copy these opacity keyframes and paste it over here as well. And same with this one, I'm going to copy this opacity again over here. So after this we are going to trim this and move the layer head over here. Let's check out our animation. Let's animate the time. So I'm going to trim the layer and paste this opacity keyframe and put it over here, and let's check out. Alright, but after this text animation there would be some keyboard typing animation. So let's animate the keyboard as well, and I'm going to open the position property. Let's separate the dimension, and I'm going to only work with the y-axis, and then I'm going to jump on to next 12 frames and bring this keyboard down, and let's reverse the keyframe order. So I'm going to select all these layers and parent it with keyboard. Well, I'm going to select disclose the type text layer and also these other layers, and I'm going to parent it with text layer. So if I move, everything moves together. Now I'm going to again put a position keyframe at this point, and at this particular point I'm going to bring this down at this point. So let's erase the keyframe. Same with this one. Let's check out our animation. Okay, now we are going to type the text. So let's move the anchor point. Let's turn off the visibility of this layer for a moment. First of all, type the text. Let's type WhatsApp. Let's change the color of the text and also scale down the text and put it over here. Okay, now uh, I'm going to turn off the visibility of this type text message. So I'm going to trim it till this point. So after that, this text will pop up. Now I'm also going to parent this text layer with this type text box. Okay, now bring in the effects and presets panel, type in typewriter, and I'm going to apply this effect on this text. So right now it is animating a type animation. From this point we are going to add a letter pop. So I'm going to open the scale property and scale it down and put a keyframe, and let's jump on to 5 frame and let's scale it up to 100%. Let's keep it still for a frame and then again bring it back to the initial value. So for that I'm going to copy this again and reverse the keyframe order. Select the keyframe and easy is it. Let's check out. Okay, let's trim this layer. Now let's bring the letter pop above this layer and I'm going to add a text layer. Let's add W and I'm going to parent this letter with this letter pop layer. Okay, and also I'm going to add a highlight for this key. So for that I'm going to take a rounded rectangle. Let's change the color to some lighter color. Let's open the opacity and give it 50% of opacity. Now put a keyframe at this point and at this both ends give it 0% of opacity. So select the keyframes and easy is it and trim the layers till this end. Okay, now after typing W, the next letter is H. So like this we are going to select this layer and then press shift to select this layer and copy. To copy and paste it in the same order, select the first layer, press shift and select the last layer and copy and paste. Right now we are going to select this letter pop layer and parent it with shape 2 shape layer 2 and place it at H. And like this we are going to do for the rest of the layer. So let's do it. So now we are going to offset the layers. So I'm going to select all these layers and move it at this point. So after typing W, the next letter will be typed. Same with the other one. So let's check out our animation. Okay, now let's check the letters as well. So right now we are going to add H over here. Same with this one, A over here, and do the same with the other layers as well. Now we are going to move this. So I'm going to select this WhatsApp actual text layer, this one, and press U to open the property with keyframe, and remember we have applied typewriter effect on this layer, so this animation will end at this point. So let's check out our animation now. Yeah, it's looking pretty nice. So after typing it, we are going to click on send. So I'm going to open the, first of all, trim this send layer to this point, open the scale property of send, put a keyframe, then jump onto next 6 frames, and let's scale it down to 70%, and let's keep it still for 2 frames, and then jump onto next 10 frames. Let's scale it up to 103, and then again jump onto next 5 frames, and let's settle it down to 100%. Okay, so after, at this point it is pressing, so after that the message will be sent. So we are going to select this layer, trim it to this point, and then again copy this layer, this text message, and put it at this point. So I'm going to bring it over here. All right, so let's parent this one with text, type text as well. So after this point, this whole pop-up animation will happen. Now let's check our animation. Okay, now we are going to bring down the keyboard. So I'm going to copy this and reverse the keyframe and paste it, and same with this one, this text box. I'm going to copy the keyframes and paste it and reverse the keyframe order. All right, so let's check the whole animation from this window. Yep, it's looking pretty nice. So that is how you can animate a chat UI in After Effects. So do try it on your own and let me know if you have any doubt regarding the lesson. So that is it for this lesson. Hope you liked it. If you liked it, then make sure to hit the like button. If you have any doubt regarding the lesson, make sure to comment down. I will be happy to help you out. And if you are here for the first time, make sure to subscribe the channel and hit the bell notification button to stay notified for all future updates. Until then, goodbye.